Hello, fuckers. And I hope you've been retaining some sanity in this state of environmental illness. If you've been struggling to do so, well, hey, I think that makes at least 50% of us who realize it. Remember your media consumption hygiene and don't try to evade feelings of fear throughout your day, or else, in my experience, it'll all catch up with you approximately 3 seconds before you're about to fall asleep, launching you into a slumber delaying panic attack. Anyways, if you want, we can talk about dealing with that sometime. This past month, in the private stream, we spent a good deal of time continuing to talk about RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria. How do we actually deal with it, considering exposure therapy is so likely to accidentally reinforce our fears and self abuses? How does it relate to fragmented personalities, loss of self defense mechanisms such as major image splitting, low self esteem, and DID in extreme cases? Why does it seem so much worse in the digital era, causing many of us to be text, email, and comment terrorized? How does it all relate to the Gen Z stare? And in what ways does RSD impact our relationships? Covertly, often resulting in judgments of being dramatic or hot stirring, when in fact, oftentimes, we are simply sensitive to things that others might miss. I had a lot to say about this topic, hopefully, a few helpful mantras and tips to offer. And then we recently transitioned into a topic that is closely, maybe incestuously related to RSD. It's called Facades of Conformity. The ways in which we mask who we truly are and display inauthentic values in order to fit with oppressive crowds. Specifically, in the paper that we opened with, abusive supervisors. This topic came from research that focused on facades of conformity within the workplace. But I'll remind you time and again until my mouth doesn't work anymore. Workplaces are simply hierarchical systems, microcosms of ranked humans in particular roles, just like our families, relationships, and communities often are. So the impacts of and research about these microenvironments can almost always be cross-applied. Hot tip. This means wherever a supervisory, punitive, controlling person may have an impact on your life success and well being, facades of conformity, FOCs, FOCs, may be created, often unconsciously, automatically, involuntarily. In this paper, they described the proposed strategy behind creating FOX, which is to guard resources or reduce potential resource loss. Unfortunately, and ironically, they also uncovered that the very nature of hiding your true self, your real values, and pretending to adhere to a false set of them to minimize potential resource punishment has the negative effect of, you guessed it, diminishing one's resources in another way, specifically at the expense of emotional health. Thus, in attempting to spare oneself from the repercussions of sticking out like a sore thumb from the group or going against the grain, individuals may instead hammer on their own appendages until they become a bloody mess that cannot function anymore. But, you know, on the inside, where no one can see the injury, because they found that the results of creating FOX, facades of conformity, are emotional exhaustion. And the long term effects of emotional exhaustion are significant and life impacting far outside of this abusive relationship. You can count on mental and physical health deterioration, relationship destruction, burnout, loss of functionality in every area of life, and overall decay of life quality when FOX are tapped into the rig, let alone when they're sustained day after day indefinitely. And the research finds that the major personality motivating factor, which seems to strongly promote use of a facade of conformity, is what the authors call self-enhancement motives, or the desire to present favorably to others. We might also see a crossover here with, yeah, you've been listening. You guessed it again, rejection sensitive dysphoria. I would say also CPTSD in general. So it goes a little something like this. If an individual is already disempowered, lacking in resources, and or accustomed to being rejected or abandoned, if they already feel that they are a minority without necessary support or empowerment, if they already live in a state of stress, then they are more likely to engage in building FOCs in the face of abusive supervision. Remember, this could be the abusive supervision of a partner, a parent, a neighborhood, not just a traditional boss. Needing to save face or create one that will allow survival is a unique but not uncommon problem, especially in the CPTSD crew. Examine the linkage between CPTSD and ACEs, that's adverse childhood experiences. And you can easily understand why. Less support, less resources, and greater health challenges in life in general put us at risk for these later downstream problems. And then, once the facade of conformity is established, the common outcome is emotional exhaustion, which begins to tear away at the life satisfaction and successful structures of the person. We can extrapolate. The individual is likely to feel more stress, more pressure to try to earn favorable regard harder, and the motivation to maintain that FOC may become more extreme. When it becomes a daily standard, well, I'm sure you can feel the tension inside of you, imagining or remembering how fatiguing that forever charade is. It rots away the life experience of the human even further as it spreads through almost every aspect of their daily life, just like complex trauma tends to do. So, especially as political polarizations and profits become louder and less flexible all around us, let us not forget that what seems like the easiest way out, to simply play along and pretend you're on the same plane as the people around you who wield power, in fact, will result in circumstances that are much harder than maintaining your real values in the face of the pressure. It could, and research says will, be a life costing venture. So, fuckers. Remember, work, romantic, friendly, and family systems tend to mimic each other when we have unhealed trauma, especially. If it seems like you can't be yourself in any of the above, it's a good indication that your authentic person hasn't been accepted or utilized fully. And these seemingly unrelated, unrelenting systems of conformity may pervade your experience as the result. This is why I propose a new catchphrase for us all. It is no fox to give. Aim for AOAs, actions of authenticity instead, and represent your real values, which might require one to work on that rejection dysphoria, especially so you don't become your own abusive supervisor. A topic that we are now moving into as we discuss environments of conformity, which many of us were born into and continue to fall into as a result. From there, we're going to be talking about the closely related topic, the life-wrecking costs of overabundant impression management. And with all that jangling around in your noggin as if you needed more. Cheers, y'all. Come check out the newly reissued workbooks that go along with each episode if you are interested in guided notes, multiple choice quizzing, and reflection questions to take these topics all the way to the healing bank. Now published weekly at patreon.com/traumatized motherfuckers. And a reminder that each sode is also available in course format, including this workbook and digital quizzing for your ease of learning. For the huge motherfucking nerds out there who really want to help support this one human DIY mental health support project. I'll see you there. Patreon.com/traumatized motherfuckers. If you dare, because as fall finally slips into view, it's getting a bit spookier every week. Take care, and I will see you soon. Motherfuckers, give no fox for fascism. Bye-bye.